Good morning, Sun Worshipers. This is George McClellan coming to you from North Georgia's only online live radio TV talk show, FetcherNews.com. You can reach me at 706-889-9700, or you can text or email George at FetcherNews.com. Following Brian's little show, that just fairly well takes the breath away. He gets on a roll and he's hitting it pretty hard. And I'm going to follow up, but I'm going to calm everybody down and let the excitement settle in for a little bit. I have said many times that there are three candidates running for president, and when I say candidates, I do not mean Jill Stein of the Green Party, and I certainly do not mean the buffoon Gary Johnson. He's just silly. They're just silly. But the three candidates for the presidency is Hillary Clinton, the Republican Party, and Donald Trump. And that brings me to Trump on Paul Ryan. Ryan is very important. Ryan, the Republican Party wants to elevate Ryan to a position of near sainthood because he is the speaker, when in fact he's not really that well liked, and certainly I didn't vote for him. We didn't vote for him to be in that position, but the representatives that we sent to Congress, they voted for him to be in that position. And he didn't want it, but he was convinced to take it, and so now we have Paul Ryan. To Paul Ryan's favor, he has a health care plan and other plans for the party. Now, drain the swamp. Brian talked about Trump's wanting to drain the swamp, and that includes Republicans, because they are handmaidens, many of them are handmaidens of the Democrat Party, and the Democrat Party is no longer an American constitutional party that supports representative government. It has been morphed into and taken over by the old Communist Party in the disguise of environmentalists and Greens and that sort of thing. One can easily surmise, it's not hard to understand, that Paul Ryan is not in favor of Donald Trump, did not want Donald Trump to be the Republican candidate, because Donald Trump is his own man, and he does not toe the party line. He refuses to toe the party line. But for the sake of political expediency, after last year's expulsion of John Boehner from the House seat, he decided to make a nominal show of support, but he criticized Trump more often than he praised him. And when he realized just this week that the poll numbers were swinging the wrong way, he chose to abandon ship altogether, telling Republicans on Monday that he would no longer defend Trump. Now, I'm going to get into poll numbers here in a few minutes. I'm going to get into the poll that I think really counts. So many in the House did not take that news well. And there's Tea Parties out here in America have been, in fact, putting conservative candidates, nominees into the House as representatives, but there's not enough of them yet to really make a big difference, but it's happening. But many of those did not like what Paul Ryan did. According to Manu Raju, a reporter on CNN, Ryan has angered other Republicans who have expressed their concern with Ryan's position on a private conversation call earlier this week he had with his caucus. They call it a caucus. In theory, in that short-term displeasure, if it turns into a long-term grievance, that's damaging to the whole Republican Party. Ryan's place as Speaker, if that should happen, would definitely be in jeopardy. And he's looking to his future like all politicians do. And that's why we need, he better have a skill other than being a politician, because if Trump does manage to bring the term issue limit up to the voters, he might actually make it happen. Of course, the Congress will probably never vote for it, but people out here can exercise their rights at the voting booth, which is what politicians tell. If you don't like me, don't vote for me. That's true. That is the way it's always worked. But the candidates, the incumbent candidates, are always supported by the party, and there's a lot of money that just flows in. We have our own example here when people have decided that our own candidate in the 9th Georgia District, Doug Collins, has kind of fallen off the wagon that he rode to Congress on. That was a conservative wagon. Well, as for Trump himself, he has essentially declared open war on Paul Ryan and the GOP leadership, stating that Ryan, in Ocala, Florida last week, Trump suggested that Ryan's allegiance should be thrown into question. Does the GOP want the presidency, or does the GOP want the old corrupt government to stay in place? And that's what he's in effect saying. There's a whole deal going on down there, you know, Trump said. There's a whole deal going on. We'll figure it out. I always figure things out, but there's a whole sinister deal going on. That's Trump's inartful way, his New York Bronx way of telling everybody that he sees the problem. But among Republican lawmakers who do support Trump, there is a consensus that he should be focusing his attack on his opponents rather than on the Speaker of the House. I kind of agree with that. He does not need to attack Ryan. Ryan's doing a good enough job damaging himself. He needs to attack Hillary Clinton and the Democrat Party. There is so much WikiLeaks information flowing every day that into the public that he just cannot run out of information. Me too. It's just we have so much information that we can be on overload. Ryan, this time he said Ryan got support from these Republicans who actually backed Donald Trump. Raju said that on CNN. She continued, on that private conference call, Kellyanne Conway, who is Trump's campaign manager, was urged by several House Republicans to tell Trump to not focus on Paul Ryan and instead train his fire on Hillary Clinton. These Republican lawmakers, I am told, think this intra-party fight has been a major distraction. It is because the media is not on our side, and they will elevate and blow out all consensus any little thing that's happening in the Republican Party. When you step back and look at this from afar, you have to wonder if it could have ended any other way. I don't think so. The Trump phenomena was at right angles with the Republican establishment in the primaries, and it seems it will finish the same way. Trump never made a good little GOP soldier. He will never make a good GOP soldier, but he will make a great American president. And he will surround himself with the people who will make that work. That's not what his campaign was ever about. Okay, on the polls, I found this little ditty, and this is a wonderful little exercise. Just sit back and listen. You don't need to take notes. Hillary Clinton is all, this came out of the American Thinker, by the way, and it was written by Joseph Smith published yesterday. Hillary Clinton is all but measuring the drapes for the Oval Office, but some things in her campaign don't add up. Trump supporter Wayne Allen Root paints Hillary Clinton as the political equivalent of the ghost cities of China that no one lives in. It reminds me of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. She exists, but are there any real people behind her? Are you certain anyone is voting for her? While Trump rallies are once-in-a-lifetime experiences, like Woodstock for working-class conservatives back in the 60s, Hillary is lucky to draw 200 people. No one buys Hillary's books or her campaign gear. Root tells of a friend who found Hillary gear at the airport gift shop and, on inquiring, was told that Trump hats and shirts that come in twice a week are sold out within hours. Make America great again. Hillary Grill, they can't give it away, her stuff, or books, or shirts, or things. That doesn't appear odd. Doesn't that appear odd to you, this fellow asks? Hillary is leading in the polls, but no one attends her rallies. No one buys her books. No one buys her merchandise. She is a candidate whose own supporters don't like her. Hillary is the ghost candidate. I love this whole metaphor. Vice presidential candidate Tim Kaine is equally uninspiring, drawing just 50 people to a rally last Friday in Miami. Mr. Kane spoke about from the back of a pickup truck with a street art poster for a backdrop. And the estimates of 50 attendees appears to include Kane's organizers, a few photographers, and at least 2 children well under the voting age. Yet, Mr. Kane may be one dizzy spell from the Oval Office. Very profound thought. One spell from the Oval Office. Ed Klein, author of several books on the Obama and Clintons, had a column out on Mrs. Clinton's maladies. When Mr. Klein reveals that President Obama and his senior advisor, Valerie Jarrett, have been so worried about Hillary's health that they offered recently to arrange a secret medical checkup for her. Mrs. Clinton refused, of course, and fearing that a leak to the media would prove fatal to her presidential campaign. According to Mr. Klein, Hillary's doctors have discovered she suffers from anathemia, an abnormal heartbeat, and a leaky heart valve. That's new information. That's new information. She had pneumonia, she fainted, she fell, they threw her into the truck. They may have recommended that she consider having valve replacement surgery, but Hillary has refused because she does not want to risk the negative political fallout from stories about such a serious operation. Well, they're no longer serious. They're outpatient practically. They're so well done and so done so often now. There's not to mention a predilection for deception, Klein continues. Among Hillary's friends, it is common knowledge that she suffers from tension headaches, sits with her feet elevated, nods off to sleep while studying her speeches, gets dizzy, and has frequently stumbled and fallen at her home in Chappaqua. She asks her closest aide, Huma Abedin, to rub her shoulders and bring her cold compresses for her neck and forehead. And so to recap, Hillary is leading in the polls but doesn't draw crowds, can't give away her merchandise, and is not liked by her own supporters. Her running mate is equally uninspiring and acting like a irritated jerk in his one moment under the lights. And that was the VP speech with Mike Pence, the debate. Mrs. Clinton is in failing health and isn't likely to be able to withstand the rigors of the presidency. Makes perfect sense to me, this writer said. Meanwhile, New York Times reporter Stephen Miller filed this report on a recent cross-country trip. Over the course of 8 days, while traveling some 3,000 miles by motorcycle across the northern United States, I was steadily confronted by presidential yard signs. I idly recorded those in support of Donald Trump until after the first few days, the number approached 100. I eventually lost count. Those in support of Hillary Clinton were comparatively easy to keep track of. I traveled nearly 2,500 miles before I saw a single sign. Still, the route alone would not fully explain his utter dominance of the pastures, the lawns, the embankments that formed the margins of my field of vision. The Times reporter observes that yard signs are an outdated form of political advertising that seems quaint and almost historical. Left unsaid is the implication that only rubes would use such archaic means of expression in the digital age. Isn't that interesting? We're already, he's driving across flyover country and he's already categorizing us as rubes and hicks. Hillary interviewed the owner of the first sign. This fellow interviewed the owner of the first sign of Hillary's he encountered in Thornton, Indiana, and that individual recommended a visit to a nearby fall festival, which he attended. By the time I reached the crowds who were gathered there, just a few blocks to the east, a different kind of music had once again caught my attention, says this Times reporter. It was a continuing chorus of America's roadways, as sung by the yard signs of Thorntown, Trump, Trump, Trump. So poll-leading Hillary has no crowds, has no sales, has no signs. Her inept running mate may be one dizzy spell away from the Oval Office, and she has an an opponent generating historical levels of enthusiasm. Despite what her media supporters would have us believe, the polls just don't add up. They just don't add up. Well, I'm getting time now for a quick break. I'm getting signaled, and so we'll see you on the other side. And I want to go into another excellent essay that was courtesy of the Madison Forum here in Marietta, Georgia, an arm of the Madison Foundation. Okay, let's go to a break.
El Rey and Elijah.
El Rey Mexican Restaurant.
Family owned and operated, and a local favorite for families, parties, and meetings.
Great prices.
Friendly service and delicious Mexican cuisine.
Patio dining available.
Come sing in Carlos's Cantina every Friday 9 to 1.
Eat in or take away.
Same location for 14 years. Open 7 days at the corner of Maddox Drive and 515. North Georgia's favorite Mexican cuisine. El Rey and Elijah.
Pizza Hut makes great pizza, but they can't tell you what a gift it is. I can. They took a grilled cheese and combined it with stuffed crust pizza. To think, I almost wasn't here to try it.
How did you?
It's not important, Jan. What's important is that I watched the sunrise this morning. Then I got to stand in a room filled with this pizza. And later I'll stare at the ocean. Or maybe I'll learn Russian. Or listen to jazz. Or try my hand at needlework, or open a door for a beautiful woman, or read a human interest story, or make dessert wine, or ride a wild horse, or experiment with watercolors. Eat every slice like it's your last, especially you, Doug. Especially Doug, right? You care about Doug. The grilled cheese stuffed crust pizza, proof that no one outpieces the Hut.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Elijah. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
What you gonna do with all that junk?
Well, welcome back. This is George McClellan at North Georgia's only live online internet talk show. This is Georgia's Hour. This is FetcherNewsTV.com. Y'all come and listen to it. And you want to join the discussion, you can call me at 706-889-9700, or you can email me, george@FetcherNews.com. Now I want to bring up another site that is important. This is the Madison Forum, www.madisonforum.com, .org. I'm sorry, .org. They are not paying for this, but it's from them that I got this essay, and I have to share this essay. It was written on the 16th by a fellow named Chris Owen. and just sit back and listen to it. He calls it an act of treason. It has taken several months and a number of email dumps from WikiLeaks to finally figure out what this presidential election is all about. There are only two ways to vote, for Donald Trump or for Hillary Clinton. But neither of those are what one would be voting for. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote to resist the massive corruption of government, a vote against globalism, a vote against global warming or climate change. It is a vote against media collusion and interference in politics. A vote for Donald Trump is not a vote for the person at all. That is why, despite the media onslaught of negative stories about him as a person, he carries no weight with those who support him, because they don't support him at all. They support what he represents, which is a chance to hold Hillary Clinton responsible for her crimes, and therefore all of the crooked politicians of 2012 who coerced voters out of the Republican base only to turn on them the next day. That's what Brian was talking about, drain the swamp. Likewise, a vote for Hillary Clinton is a vote for a transformed America, a quasi-police state where the government intervenes in business and forces some out of business while subsidizing other businesses that could not possibly sustain themselves without massive graft and media brainwashing or propagandizing, my word, and I'm talking about the green energy. That whole thing makes no money. No one will invest in it. The government supports it. All of these businesses would be held hostage to a criminal organization originating from the White House. It would be a vote to end forever the concept of individual rights. Hillary Clinton would do no less than continue the work of the Obama administration to destroy individual rights, and nearly half of the nation is in favor of just that. The people who have been educated in socialist-run public schools. It would be a continued replacement of the voters who value the principles of the founding of this nation with those who have no like perceptions or expectations. It is a vote for the sudden disappearance of websites like FetcherNews.com. The outcome is bigger than that. The next president will likely be a true wartime president. As Vladimir Zhirinovsky claimed, a vote for Hillary Clinton would be a vote for war. War with Russia may be inevitable, and irrespective of the election, as it seems likely, that war will begin before the next president can take office. We're talking a month, or we're talking 6 months, 2 months. What is it, January? They're 90 days. But there is the question of who would be more likely to effectively fight the war. More than that, would our military leaders be willing to follow the orders of a criminal like Hillary Clinton, running a crime organization out of Washington? Would they put their lives in jeopardy knowing the cold-blooded actions she demonstrated in Benghazi? Or would they likely recognize that their lives meant nothing to the commander-in-chief? So many things are now known about the media establishment and the collusion it shares with the Clinton campaign. More things are being found out every day as WikiLeaks provides proof of the public perception. The people were right. There is a conspiracy to keep them uninformed and misinformed, to protect Democrat politicians from facing scandals. It is clear now that there will never be a Democrat held accountable for their actions, and therefore the only time Americans can expect to get anything other than abusive and criminal office holders is if they elect a Republican. And that's not always the case. This is where we get back to a vote for Donald Trump, where it is nothing other than a vote for accountable leadership. A vote for Hillary Clinton is giving up on that ideal. A vote for Hillary Clinton is a vote to abolish the very principles of elected officials, because if their misdeeds can never be told, then their abuses can never be aired. What have we then? We have a criminal organization run in America. That we have so many in this nation willing to vote for Hillary Clinton tells us what we need to know about the other side, tells us all we need to know about the other side, that they have already given up, and that they would rather have a totalitarian system. A vote for Hillary is, in effect, an act of treason. That is so brilliant and says so strikingly what I've been trying to say all along, what Brian has been trying to say. However, on a happier note, I love to read blogs on news articles so I'll read them out. I print out a few of the smarter ones. And in line with the motorcycle rider and his observation from the New York Times, this is an interesting one. The media, they're all left-wingers. Trump said that, I'm quoting Trump. This is basically why Trump will win. The voters are tired of the government and their crooked extensions going against the people and placing those in Washington that serve their best interest. It is past time the people elect who they want, that looks out for the people, not the special interests. Special interest is one of those kick words, those clue words. It defines everything, but defines nobody. And when I hear the word special interest, right now I think of the people who handle the money. The people who handle the money. Big business, they're trying to produce a product. Big money will fund them if they need it or not. But big money, and I'm talking about the banks, the trading houses, Goldman Sachs, those are the people that are running our government or trying to run our government. And they're trying to extend it worldwide through financiers like George Soros, for example, and the one world government. This individual says it is past time the people elect those who want to look out for the people, not special interests. The globalists are looking at the works of the propaganda minister of Nazi Germany, Goebbels, Joseph Goebbels, and improve on his works by keeping the party, the Democrat Party, hidden from the message. The illusion of its being news rather than propaganda, changing the law so they could be media voice in geographic areas, and then buying up controlling interests on the board of directors of each media outlet. The ability to, now that was Solinsky and Marx, Karl Marx, they said you had to do that. The good revolutionary had to infiltrate the schools, the churches, the media. And that's what this person has talked about, has mentioned without saying it outright. But he has recognized that there is a sinister purpose behind what we are experiencing right now. The ability to both finance their banks through bond issues and use advertising dollars from other interests self-maintains them, and using other corporate assets to use their cash to buy advertising space and time. And that's the special interests. It really was a smart plan, as we all fell for it and never questioned it. And they never questioned who controlled the media, and the message being repeated over and over and over again until now here we are hoping, mind you, that Chris Wallace of Fox News will do what we expect him to do as a conservative commentator. We will know at the end of the debate tonight whether Chris Wallace is one of them, if he's gone over to the dark side. He'll be sweet. I mean, this man is practiced and he knows how to do it and what he's doing. Trump needs to win, or we're all going to be in worse shape than we have ever imagined this country could be in. We cannot imagine what this country can be in. There are people in our country who do. They are immigrants who came from communist countries who warn us all the time. They call talk shows. They write letters to the editor. All the time they are warning us about what this country is turning into because they themselves have experienced it. These people are highly educated. That is why they lean left. In other words, they are highly educated by liberal professors. They are indoctrinated in the ideology of socialism and communism. They do not look at both sides of issues. They reject any side that is counter to what they are taught without questioning why they are taught. For those of us paying attention, we saw this sad situation developing from the 1950s onward. I, for one, have just about given up hope that America as such would survive. Now suddenly I'm seeing signs of hope. Social media, people are talking to people. The MSM's influence is being countered by your neighbor's rebuttal. The left has rushed in, but I think that by Americans talking to each other, we are holding our own and hopefully at the beginning of a tide change. In years past, I saw and heard the insidiousness in the press and on the news, but others didn't. I was but a drop of rain in a storm. How many could I alert? Undoubtedly, you were in the same situation. Now, though, our grandchildren have an outlet when they see the lies of the mainstream media. They Twitter, they tell their friends and families via Facebook, there is hope, but they must be alert that already their forces are looking for a way to silence them or to somehow take control of social media. And that's just one guy blogging to an article. And I think the article is the one I just read. The communists began infiltrating our schools, our media, Hollywood, etc., as World War II began to wane. Their goal, as Nikita Khrushchev, a Soviet premier in the 50s, later confided, was to bury us from within. The House Un-American Activities Committee was the first to begin investigating, and later Joe McCarthy, who claimed there were so many communists in the government, he became a joke, and yet history has proven that he was right. But he's still a joke. McCarthyism is a joke. But McCarthy proved it later that he was right. The plan was simple but bold. Move into these American institutions, move up the ladder, hire other communist members to do the same. The news media and the colleges soon began to have influence. If you can't understand that just one college professor can indoctrinate thousands, then you are naive. Then those thousands are further influenced by leftists in the press and so on. Soon, these indoctrinated people become the indoctrinators, and they don't know any better. There are no more Americans like those who fought in World War II. And those coming after are lies and less like our forefathers. I would guess the most loyal to the country are those who never went to college and are ultra rare lucky ones who never owned television. I disagree with that last sentence. Our young people, after 9/11, our young people volunteered for the military and went to fight wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and now Syria. So we do have a generation or a sub-layer of our generation and each succeeding generation who are pro-American. And they have televisions, but they also have some common sense. Our education system has polluted itself to the point where desperate people are homeschooling, and there are homeschool programs. It is no secret that homeschoolers are actually earning more scholarships than high schoolers out of public schools because they're smarter. They have a wider range of knowledge, and they understand American politics. And I'm getting, I got another minute or two? When you wave your hands, I think that you're saying something. Okay. Anyway, that's how other people think, and I like to read their blogs because they have a deep understanding. It's just a natural understanding of what's happening to America. That's why the motorcycle rider saw nothing but Trump signs on his ride across America. Now, the Department of State, everything in our federal government since Obama became president has been corrupted. The Department of State, Obama put that Eric Holder in as the Attorney General, and he's a criminal, and I think Trump will go after him if Trump is elected. John Kerry is a moron, a complete moron. He went to college at Yale with George Bush, same time. They have different, the Democrats were chiding Bush's low grade point average, a C, but as it turns out, John Kerry's was even lower. So that stopped. John Kerry thought he would be president. Do you remember? I remember the Vietnam War era, John Kerry sitting in front of Congress at the witness stand in his military uniform, his fatigues, without looking like a soldier, just fatigues, talking about how filthy, rotten, bad, murderous were American troops in Vietnam. He's the guy who has 3 Purple Hearts, 2 of them for paper cuts. And they couldn't wait to get rid of the guy. He commanded a boat on the Mekong Delta River, I guess. That is the kind of person that are coming to the end of their lifespan. They will, but they have already infiltrated and polluted the existing people. But I think our modern media, like the Facebook and Twitter, these are changing the way people think, and they can talk about it, and that's very good. I'm going to talk about the Department of State and how it has been corrupted, as well as the FBI, and I think that we will always learn something new when you listen to this program. If you haven't already know it, if you know it, you have something to say, call me at 706-889-5825. We'll put you on the air, or you text me or email me at george@fetchernews.com. I'm looking forward to having you here and talking to you. So we're going to a break. We'll see you on the other side for the wrap-up.
Pizza Hut makes the best pizza in the entire universe, but they won't tell you that. I've been marooned on this planet for a while now. You are an impressive race. Your children know excellent hiding places. Your oceans aren't filled with lava. And you figured out how to combine a grilled cheese sandwich with a Pizza Hut pizza. Surely interstellar travel will soon follow. And then I can finally get back home. Round. Round like home. The grilled cheese stuffed crust pizza. Proof that no one out-pizzas the Hut.
I'm Sheriff Dane Kirby, and I'll stand up for you.
I'm Stacy Nicholson, Sheriff of Gilmer County, and I will stand up for you.
Stand up and speak out. No matter how rich, cool, talented you believe yourself to be, how you treat people ultimately tells all. I am Allison Sosby, District Attorney, and I'll stand up for you.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LOJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair, and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on-site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
The Chevy Model Year End Clearance event is on at Days Chevrolet in Jasper with savings up to 16% off MSRP. Our biggest discounts of the summer. Save over $4,100 off a new Chevy Malibu, just $19,500. Huge truck savings too, up to $8,600 off loaded Silverado Crew Cab LT. Now only $33,500. Don't miss the Model Year End Clearance event at Days Chevrolet in Jasper.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. This is George at FetcherNews.com. We are in the last part of my hour, and so much to cover, and I've covered a lot of it. Right now, I led in with or ended the last segment with the Department of State, and the article that I've written about is called The Shadow Government, the Department of State, a shadow government. News that a top State Department official discussed quid pro quo. What's good for you? I'll trade you this for that. In exchange for the FBI changing the classification of a Hillary Clinton email is shocking enough, but word that the courtier of State Department officials, who controlled the release of the emails, has called itself the shadow government, is mind-blowing. This group of insiders call themselves the shadow government. The latest FBI dump of documents from the investigation into Clinton's email follies includes a summary of one agent's talk with Undersecretary Patrick Kennedy, who, the agent said, pressured him to change the classification of an email to unclassified. Kennedy also asked his assistance in altering the email's classification in exchange for a quid pro quo. In summary, in exchange for marking the email unclassified, the state would reciprocate by allowing the FBI to place more agents in countries where they were presently forbidden. The FBI has, the Constitution lets the CIA do intelligence work overseas, and the FBI is limited to home, but it's not practical to America's security that should be. So FBI agents are in every embassy in America, every American embassy in the world. Jesus, I'm having a hard time today. And where they really wanted to send these people were to Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, these FBI agents. I have a book at home called Before the Color Fades, and it's a World War II book, and it's about George Patton. And there was an FBI agent on his staff. In fact, the author of the book, Before the Color Fades, was this FBI agent. But he was also Patton's nephew. So he viewed General Patton, could talk with General Patton without having his ears chewed off, as a junior officer or battalion commander would be, who didn't stand up to what Patton expected of them. So what I'm saying is, even as far back as World War II, FBI agents were embedded in Army staffs. And they didn't have to go as, they didn't have to look like Army people or to go disguised as Army people. They were just FBI agents there doing a certain job. They weren't interrogators of prisoners, but they had another option, and they wanted to keep the federal government, who was paying for all of that war, in line to know what is going on. When I worked for the Naval Investigative Service, I never went in disguise. I didn't have to disguise myself as an enlisted man or an officer to work on the aircraft carrier or any of the ships I worked on. Everybody knew who I was. I was even challenged. How are you going to get anything done if we all know who you are? Well, yes, you do know who I am. And while your eyes are on me, you're not knowing, and you don't watch what my informants are doing. You don't even know who my informants are. Well, that was just psychological warfare in itself, and it sends shivers through the spines of many, but that was what it was all about. I was effective. Most of us were effective. Most of us worked alone. And while I was not assigned on a staff on a ship, I was there as the NIS representative. And I was called upon daily to do things that normally would not have got done, things that protected the Navy. Anyway, I'm going to get back to this FBI business overseas. That's a promise to help U.S. policy in order to make it seem like Clinton hadn't casually endangered national security. In other words, they wanted to have FBI agents in Libya, Afghanistan, Syria, and Iraq to make her predations look like they're lawful and organized and governmentally legal. The state is still covering it. And I have to say, the FBI did not rise to the bait on that. They did not rise to the bait on that. And so the State Department is still covering it up and called official comments, the allegations, inaccurate. That the FBI agent who interviewed Patrick Kennedy filled out documents called the 302, and those are absolutely firsthand information. They're not rumors. They're firsthand information. And yet here's some State Department shadow government saying that they're inaccurate. He claimed Kennedy was merely trying to understand the FBI's decision. Who offers to change federal policy in order to understand something? That's the question. I don't think so. He knew what he's doing. That was a bribe. That was an official bribe. And let me tell you, that FBI agent in there has no authority in the world, none, to change the classification of any document, to up it or lower it or anything else. And if he had tried it, it would still come out it would still be revealed to his superiors, and they would question, what the hell's going on here? Why did you do that? So no, those things don't happen. Kennedy is an idiot. He's an idiot if he thinks he can bribe somebody that way. In a later interview with the FBI, Kennedy was asked if any certain Clinton emails and where they were classified, and he answered, well, we'll see. While making eye contact with the agent he'd discussed the deal with. Kennedy is hardly the only state official to try covering up for Hillary Clinton. The whole department did its best to minimize the scandal by repeatedly claiming it just couldn't release most of Clinton's emails until after Election Day. What? Till after Election Day? Until the court rulings, actually a judge forced him to do so. Hey, cough them up. It's your turn. The FBI also released the summary of an interview that revealed a cabal, I love that word, at State Department that oversaw the email release. A powerful group of very high-ranking state officials that some referred to as the Seventh Floor Group or the shadow government. This group met every Wednesday afternoon to discuss everything Clinton related to FOIA and congressional inquiries. We have a conspiracy to protect a criminal, a conspiracy within the State Department. Now, this group undoubtedly are not career politicians. They have to be appointees. They have to be people who are not in the federal retirement system. I might be wrong. IRS has people in the federal retirement system, and they're crooks too. Imagine officials high in the George Bush administration calling themselves the shadow government as they oversaw a supposedly nonpartisan release of documents that could sink the White House hopes of its former boss. State on its own somehow never officially noticed Clinton's missing emails, regularly reporting no records that comply to subpoenas and Freedom of Information requests. Only the hacking of Clintonite Sidney Blumenthal emails 2 years after she left office began to expose the truth. The FBI has flagged the quid pro quo exchange for further investigation if they haven't been compromised already, because we know the director is corrupt. The director of the FBI is corrupt. We know that because he's told us so. He hasn't used the words, but when lies fall out of his mouth and he can't defend them, he's corrupt. The FBI has flagged the quid pro quo exchange for further investigation. Don't expect the probe to go far into the shadow government dealings. Something else will have to happen before that happens. We need a Trump victory. Trump said he would send Hillary to jail. I hope he keeps his promise. Another area, on my final thoughts, an area I want to explore. Because of the heat of this campaign, we haven't seen much of it. The last incident being Charlotte, North Carolina. Also Baltimore, we'll remember Baltimore, and Ferguson, Missouri. And that's the black riots. And let's face it, those are black riots. But I'm not going to talk about the black riots, try to condemn the people or anything like that. I want to talk about problems in the constitutionality of law. And that's important for you to know. What were the principles about a police officer's responsibility? That was a subject discussed as early as February 1794, but it was related more to the responsibility of a jury's rights, powers, duties, and obligations to enforce the law, to rule on the law, as well as to rule on the innocent or guilt of an offender. Now, when we remove ruling on the guilt or innocence of an offender and judging the law, then we have to come into the law enforcement. A little information is required. It's a serious misconception to believe that any statute, law, rule, or regulation passed by any legislator, city council, county commissioner that bears the appearance of law simply because it was written is not necessarily legitimate. Any such law must stand the test of constitutionality. This is not, I'm just not inventing this. This is all written and it's in law books. In 1803, Mayberry versus Madison, it was decided that all laws which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. That's already decided by the Supreme Court. Now, that's simple enough to understand. In the case titled Norton versus Shelby County, 18 U.S. Code, page 425, page 442, if you're interested, the results of a trial concluded that an unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no rights, it imposes no duties, affords no protections, it creates no office, it is in legal contemplation, as inoperative as though it had never been passed. And that's a direct quote. Our old-time nemesis, the National Socialist Party of Germany, the Nazis, and I want to add this because it applies to every nation has laws, and every nations have constitutions. It is only our constitution that is very difficult to amend, and without the support of the people. But in Nazi Germany, when the Wehrmacht invaded Poland, the Wehrmacht was followed by these groups of these SS killer groups called Einsatzgruppen, whose sole purpose it was to seek out and murder Jews and enemies of the Reich. In areas that the army had just conquered, however, there were not enough members of the Einsatzgruppen to completely do the tasks quickly, so they took army members out and put them in the Einsatzgruppen. And I'm talking about infantry soldiers. Historians have revealed that many, many, many German soldiers absolutely refused to participate in SS genocides. For any reason, they refused. And here's where I'm going. These soldiers were returned to their commands without prejudice, without court-martial, without notation. And the reason being, if they were court-martialed, there would be a record of that court-martial, and a German soldier standing up and saying, in the name of God, I could not participate in murdering anybody, and that was a record, that would be a record traceable to the Gestapo, the SS, and the Nazi Party. They could not have it. These people were simply returned to their units, and in fact, units headed for the Eastern Front. So the SS knew they were conducting criminal offenses, and it could not go on record. Simply one example, and I raise that as just one example of a totalitarian country, soldiers and policemen refusing illegal orders even under absolutely worse conditions, manageable, and that's genocide by war. For us, Americans, a jury is the final arbitrator not only of guilt or innocence, but of the law, despite what a judge may order a jury to find. A jury can determine that a law is indeed repugnant to the Constitution. I love that phrase. And declare it null and void. The power of a jury is unreviewable and unreversible. Basically, an unconstitutional statute disguised as a law or having the appearance and name of a law is nonetheless no law at all, rendering it ineffective, null, and void for any purpose. No one is bound to obey an unconstitutional law, and no court is bound to enforce it, which is why we need a Donald Trump. We cannot have any more liberal communist judges appointed to the federal bench. That just should stand on its own. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I am, and I have 43 years in law enforcement behind me. And these things, among others, were taught to us in our various law enforcement academies, constantly reinforced by supervisors and squad meetings, and in my day, they were practiced on the street. And I'm at the end of my time. I'm going to go more into law enforcement and how it works against the black population and for the black population. Actually, it is not against the black population. They are against themselves. So I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. I will not be here Fridays. So I'll see you tomorrow. See you on the other side. Take us out of here. Thank you. Thanks for watching.